to you about, Will.
Yeah, hi, what's up? What you got?
Chest, we are live.
Yeah, so...
It's just you and me. We can just talk about it. Just the two of us.
Yeah. Well, so if maybe people don't know who are out there, you know what? Mute it.
I already did.
Okay,
I'm one step ahead of the game.
Yeah, I got it right in front. So if you don't know, hello, welcome, Full Nerd podcast, PC. We're going to talk about PC stuff, but this is the pre-show. And
we can talk about whatever now.
We can talk about whatever we want at this point.
Anything goes, baby.
Except for, I got something to bring up.
Oh no!
If people don't know, Will has an amazing podcast with a horrible title.
What?
It's probably like the best podcast with the worst title. Like the
Brad and Will made a tech pod.
Brad and Will made a tech pod.
You think we should rebrand?
I think it's a horrible title.
I like it.
But amazing.
I like it.
See, Brad knows what's up.
Sorry.
I know what's up.
Well, but I mean, his name's in the title, I think he's biased.
What I'm saying is, I've been eyeing him for substitute Brad status in case something happens to the Brad Prime.
There you go.
Put me in, coach, ready to play.
Anyway, you and Brad Shoemaker of Nextlander fame
Doesn't actually make shoes.
And
though.
Giant Bomb.
Yeah, and Giant Bomb.
There's a giant bomb in our room. You were talking about y'all.
Oh no, here it comes. Bless your heart.
And then you were talking about yuns.
Yeah.
So even though I've lived in Texas 3 times in my life,
you say yuns.
No, I actually say yins.
Same thing.
No. Yes, no. But that's
maybe I don't know. Can you repeat the question?
Well, it's
You're not
weird.
The boss of me now.
It's weird because even though I lived in Texas multiple times in my life and other places around the U.S. and the world, y'all never came natural to me. I feel wrong saying y'all.
You feel like a y'all poser.
It just doesn't feel right for me. So I lived in Pittsburgh for 2 years, and yins like just feels natural to me. So I used yins, not yuns, but yins. So yeah, you and Brad were talking about it, and yeah, you made me feel like a second-rate citizen. And I'm here to say yins is not a second-rate.
Well, it's okay. It's okay to feel what you are.
Yeah, like live your truth, man.
Wait, so what do you use y'all, Brad?
I'm from the South, man. I'm y'all, all y'alls. Look at y'alls. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I do folks often these days. I think we talked about this on the tech pod, but yins to me, I have a friend. I'm not going to name him, but I have a longtime friend from high school and then college. His name's Graham.
Nobody's listening.
And he grew up in Eastern Ohio. And was a yins guy.
Yins or yuns?
Look,
it's different. There is a difference.
You're saying 2 words there. I know, and they sound identical to me.
No, but it is different.
Anyway, the point is, I assumed that was an Ohio thing, but I was corrected by literally hundreds and hundreds of angry people from Pittsburgh. Angry people were. I mean, they were like the tech pod audience, pretty chill.
Well, I'm here to say it live on the podcast.
Yeah,
I'm speaking for all those people who could not speak.
The yins erased.
Yeah. Even though I once again I'm not from there. I was just there for a small point in my life, but it still feels way more natural for me to say yins than y'all. I don't know why. My wife was raised in Texas, so she says y'all.
Yeah. See, I didn't know about yins until Adam, you mentioned it.
I mean, it's very specific.
Yeah. And I, as a Bay Area native, I grew up with y'all, so it just sounds more natural to me to say y'all.
Which feels weird for me, like as a California person, because like I associate y'all with like a Southern thing, and obviously California,
it's basically the South.
I mean,
yeah.
Well, I mean,
it's like Alabama,
Southwest.
Mississippi, California.
Well, I'm just saying, like if you look at the U.S., California does hit the southern part of the U.S., but not
not the same.
Not the southern east.
Not capital S.
Yeah. so I yeah. Well, but do you use why can't I think of the one here in California? There's a California or specifically Northern California word that people use.
Hella.
Hella. Yeah. Do you use hella?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely.
See that sounds natural. Yeah,
everybody uses hella now.
But if you use y'all, just. Also, how do you spell it?
Which one?
Y'all.
Hella. Y-A-L-L.
I know.
Where's the apostrophe?
Between Y and A.
Brad.
I used to do after the A, but then y'all shamed me into admitting that after the Y. So now I do Y.
See, Now I think this is a Texas, other parts of the country thing, because I was always a YA apostrophe, and the Y apostrophe A is a Texas thing, I think.
Oh,
and also wrong.
Oh,
There's nothing right about it aside from everything. You're thinking too hard about it.
Wait, so where is it? YA
apostrophe
Oh,
LL, because it's like when you do YOL, it's not YO apostrophe ULL. That doesn't make any sense. It's the LL. You're apostropheing out the W or the A in this case.
Yeah, well, luckily Yins doesn't have an apostrophe, so.
Yeah, I mean, look, for whatever reason, I always think of Yins as it's associated with Yingling beer.
Oh, yes.
And like Yingling. 3 other things that are very Pennsylvania in my mind. Hershey's Park, maybe, I don't know.
Falling Water.
Children's Television Workshop.
Yeah.
Wait, is Falling Water in Pennsylvania, really?
Pennsylvania.
I thought it was in Arizona.
No, that he has a lot of stuff there, but
okay.
no, Falling Water specifically is in.
That's nice.
If it's not in Pennsylvania, it's maybe right over the border. I went to when I lived in Pittsburgh. Amazing place. We got for all the friends of the show here. Who is this? I saw one. Oh, friend of the show, Liquid R said Utes. I don't know. Yeah, and also yams. I don't know if you're just making stuff up or if that's actual regional things. I would love to hear what people around the world use as like a y'all. Or actually, you had a good. Oh no, we're gonna save that one for.
Yeah, we gotta save that. Fam.
Yeah, you had a good.
The problem fundamentally is that English doesn't have a good. English doesn't differentiate between second person singular and second person plural, right? So like, there's no collective second person plural pronoun, and because it's just you, which means you don't know if you're talking to one person or many people. So like, I think folks, fam, y'all, it's all good.
Yeah, it's all good.
Oh, y'all.
Well, yeah. Welcome, Yins, to the Full Nerd. We're here. We're doing it. We got all the cool people hanging out in the chat. Gonna talk about some PC stuff. So yeah,
the personal computer, eh?
Yeah. I heard they put AI in it. Inside the computer.
They say that, but it turns out mostly it runs in the cloud.
Yeah, we'll see. Anyway, the full beard podcast. Yeah, somebody mentioned how Willis has a little bit of something on his face.
Isaac X on the chat noticed that I'm starting to grow out a beard. I'm just experimenting.
This is how it all starts.
So what I actually want to ask you guys is how do you guys like maintain your beard or like keep it? I don't know. You guys don't shave it, obviously. So, like, do you guys use any?
I think we all
moisturizers.
Do you shave your neck or your cheeks? No.
I get my neckline trimmed up when I go get my hair cut, like once a month or so.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And I think we shave, right?
I depends on how short it is. If it's long, I let the neck grow out. But if it's in the more kempt form,
my neck gets itchy, so I gotta shave.
See, my neck gets itchy when I hit it too much with. Usually I take a pair of beard trimmer, I have a wall. Here's the trick with beard trimmers. There's a bunch of trendy kind of BS ones out there. That have like a twisty knob or like a suction thing that never actually sucks. What you really want is just like a $50 set of wall trimmers with the plastic clip-on guards, and you just use that to keep it to the right length.
Okay.
And then you can do it with no guard to hit your neck and like your cheekal region.
Oh, and then you don't shave after that?
No, so if I shave after that, I get all.
Oh, really? Okay.
Part of the reason I grow
I'll
beard.
trim it and then shave. Yeah.
And in particular, self-care like oil or lotion or something, some conditioner of sorts.
I like a soap. I have a beard soap that I use to shampoo up when I especially create something messy.
Maybe you have so many.
It comes in a cube from Amazon. Nice. It's pretty good. It smells nice.
I like it.
I don't know. What's your process, Brad?
Oh, he just goes in the woods and throws dirt on it.
I haven't been able to go to the barber in a couple of months, and I'm starting to look like a dude from New Hampshire, and I'm realizing that now that I'm on camera. But me, I use you can get like the gelatinous, the thicker conditioners. Those work better, is what my barber's told me. And then other than that, it's just beard oil, barbecue sauce, and apathy.
Yeah. Eating a lot of fatty foods really helps, it turns out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice shot.
You just let it seep in. Let it seep in.
All right.
Anyway.
Good tips.
Wipe
Thank
it
you,
off
guys.
or rub it in. That's the choice you have to make.
How are the hamsters doing?
Hamster's doing
Holding
great.
over
All
there?
the friends of the show are here.
All right, cool.
Thank you.
I say we get this show started. We got lots to talk about. It's gonna be fun. It's a good time.
Let's get the full beer started.
So, let's bring up notes. I got nope, that is not the right tab. Where did I put the tab? There it is. Okay. In this episode, this is what we're going to talk about.
You got to really project that, though. You can't just mumble mouth.
And this is a mouthful nerd.
And stuff.
And here we go.
Things.
Welcome to the Full Bucket.
Just kidding. All right.
Y'all say what?
All right. You ready? Let's do it.
Yep.
In this episode of The Full Nerd, 9800X3D details, Nvidia making ARM processors, and RDNA 4 at CES 2025, maybe.
And welcome to episode 323 of the Full Nerd.
No. And welcome to episode 323 of the Full Nerd Podcast, PCWorld's a podcast about PC building. I am your fill-in host, Adam Patrick Murray. I'm not alone, though. I have three fine gentlemen here in the room with me. Well, I guess two in the room with me, one online. Brad Charkis is online. Hello, Brad.
Hello, I'm here in spirit. Go vote, y'all.
Yeah, go vote. Don't forget, do your civic duty if you are in the U.S. Will Smith, Will Smith is here in the U.S. I can confirm that. Hello, welcome to the
I'm
podcast.
really glad to be here today. It's an exciting day.
Yeah,
I voted
we're
yesterday. I took California, we get mail ballots,
Holy
and then
God.
you just fill them out at home, and then you take them and you jam another thing, and then you get a text that says, "Hey, your vote was counted," which is nice. Also, if you already voted and you voted by mail, maybe hit the status thing and make sure your ballot was counted. You don't need to send your signature off or something, especially if you're in certain states.
Good point. I like that. And controlling the verticals and horizontals is a freshly built bearded Willis Leib.
Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Happy Election Day. I'm still a little bit of shrubs and scribbles. Yeah, so
is it
it's not
itchy?
full beard yet, huh?
You got the itchies?
No,
not yet. Okay.
Is that supposed to? Am I anticipating that's supposed to come?
It usually can
There was
happen.
a period of time,
Yeah.
but now I just don't feel anything on my face anymore.
There we go. Yeah, it's all fixed.
It's super overstimulated all the time.
If you want more beard talk, go back and watch the pre-show. We are here to talk about PC stuff. First up, real quick, we need to give out a PSA. This is not a full topic, but we want to give a PSA. There is
It's a public service announcement.
yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for listing that out. That's what that stands
I
for.
didn't know if people knew.
Yep. Nvidia GPU. If you have an Nvidia GPU, update your drivers ASAP.
Yeah.
Will, why should people update to the drivers?
Because there's a exploit that's a remote code execution in NVIDIA drivers that are older than a certain date and time, which I forgot we were going to talk about this, so I didn't actually look up to see
Whoops. That's okay.
which ones they are. But if you go to the NVIDIA GeForce Experience or the NVIDIA/drivers homepage and download the current, I think, October 2024 release drivers, those are cool. Some older ones less so.
Yeah, I mean, it's always a good practice to update drivers, even if you don't want like the day one drivers. Maybe some people get the previous driver. I don't know, but Brad, have you updated your drivers?
I haven't yet. I've been playing Call of Duty on my Xbox, like a
What?
yeah.
Wow.
Hey, and that
Yeah.
concludes the show. We're done here.
I've been sick, so I've been sitting on my couch in my recliner with my gamepad.
It's okay.
Oh, well,
It's
okay.
we still love you, Brad.
If Brad's going to talk about this nonsense, I put
no.
Apple Intelligence on my phone this morning. I got the opt-in for that.
Oh, so
So-
it's the phone's finally intelligent.
The phone's finally smart. Yeah.
Oh, finally.
I got it.
It took a while.
When I turn on Siri, it does a whole glowy thing now.
That's actually
instead
pretty
of
cool.
just.
I would just update it just for that.
That's why I did it.
But yeah, so PSA, update your drivers. Always a good thing to do. But we're here to talk about CPUs, not just any CPUs. I was digging around doing some things around here and cleaning up some stuff, and I came across some old CPUs that I didn't even know we had. I'm not talking about the
Wow,
new
those are
CPUs.
trays.
Yeah, we got trays here. We have numerous trays here. Check these out. We got an i5 3470 We got a Celeron
so that's
G530.
that i5-3470 is going to be faster than my i3 13100, right? Because it's a 5.
Yes, definitely. That's how
Okay.
it works. We also have a Celeron G440, and then in these trays we got some hot AMD.
Holy cow, these are ancient.
Yeah, so we got an AMD Phenom, AMD Athlon 2. We got a couple of those. AMD Athlon 64, a Phenom 2s. We got those. We got an A8 5600 series.
Wow.
Oh, this is a 5600, Ryzen 5600.
Oh,
It's a A8 3800, Athlon 64. Yeah. 6700. Yeah, we should just build a PC.
I don't want to.
We have CPUs here. We should just build a PC.
Chad is asking, did you find Gordon's stash?
I think if there's something you got to know about Gordon, he's got a lot of stuff, and sometimes he puts stuff where you didn't know he had stuff. So yeah, I was cleaning out an area, and I was like, oh, okay, well that's funny. At some point, Gordon just slid this tray of CPUs in here, and I was like, I didn't even know we had these around.
I just want to say I'm really disappointed in the level of cleanliness on the top of these CPUs. Like
It's fine.
You could do better getting the thermal goo
fine.
off when you put them in the tray.
Yeah.
But I like one of the things, not working in the space for a long time and then coming back. It's fun when you get the trade CPUs from the vendor, because they often come like the current raft of CPUs used to come in these trays, and they'd be like 2 trays stuck together, and they'd be rubber banded up, and then they'd just be shoved into like a normal FedEx squishy envelope or something and sent through the mail, and you'd get like some unreleased hardware that no one in the world, that 50 or a couple hundred people in the world had outside of the company, and you just get into like a normal package with like the trays. It was anyway.
These are nice trays.
They
The
were,
trays
I
are
would
fun.
tell you they were shipping it back then. If you're just on the shipment list, they would send it to you. So you just get like
Oh yeah,
a bubble pack with the CPU loose.
yeah.
Yeah, actually, I feel like before I started reviewing CPUs, sometimes Intel CPUs would come with it would just be Intel Confidential.
Oh, yeah.
Lately, or at least
Little black box.
yeah.
Well, but like even like etched into the heat spreader would be Intel Confidential. I think the AMD CPUs always sent ones that were retail marked, but yeah, Intel Confidential. I have an old Nehalem Intel Confidential still at home, I think.
Nice. All right. We're not here to talk about Phenom. We're here.
It's a bad name, right?
It's phenomenal.
It's. I mean, it's not a phenomenon.
Yeah, right. But it's actually is Phenom stand for phenomenal? I actually don't know. Is that what it was?
I think it officially didn't stand for anything, but I can't remember. It's been a long
Okay.
time since I thought about phenoms.
Well, I should have. Anyway, yeah, we're here to talk about the brand new hotness, the 9800 X3D. We talked a little bit about yesterday because it was teased right alongside the reviews of Arrow Lake. It was a perfectly timed little. Hey, here's reviews for this CPU. And some people were not happy about it, so we, we're just gonna sprinkle this one a little in here. Just gonna leave that right there.
Twisting the knife
Yeah,
after
we're
it's
just gonna
gone
leave that
in.
right there.
Yeah.
So actually, no, that was 2 weeks ago, right? And then last week they teased it, and then last week after we recorded, they gave the details. Because at the tease, we didn't know which processors were going to be shown, the details of that. There's a link in the description if you want to follow along to an article by the fabulous Mark Hochman. He goes into detail about what was actually announced. So what is coming out this Thursday, so in 2 days from today.
2 days from today.
Is the 9800 X3D. So the 8-core processor, not the 9900 X3D or the 9950 X3D. Those were not mentioned, just the 8-core 120 watt part, and is coming in at $480. So it's a $30 increase over the 7800 X3D. But they're promising some things. It's similar core count, but this time a higher max turbo, same cache. All the goodness that you get from X3D, but did they increase the cache actually?
Oh,
No.
I got you. I was gonna say it's
Oh.
second gen cache. I think I just cut you off.
Yeah. So that's the big thing, is that they're saying, hey, we alluded to it with the higher boost clock, because this is now AMD is claiming this to be the second generation of 3D V-cache. So for the Ryzen 5000 series and then the 7000 series, the V-cache was on top of the CCD. Along with some filler on the sides for stability. Now, for the second generation, they decided to, instead of putting the peanut butter on top of the bread, they decided to put it on the bottom.
It's like an inside-out Uncrustable.
I guess. Yeah, something like that. So this actually this allows for a couple things. There's actually a really good video. I didn't link to it. I should put it in the description to Dr. Ian Cuttress at Tech Potato actually did an interesting breakdown of like the benefits of having the cache on the top of the CCD versus the bottom. The major benefit of having the cache on the bottom is that you no longer have to worry about thermal limitations.
Because like on the older 3D V-cache chips, it was basically serving as a thermal insulator between the hot bit and the thing that makes the hot bit cold.
Yeah, I mean the more layers you put in it, the harder it is for the heat to dissipate, and that was always something that they said, hey, like these are clocked lower. Usually the X3D parts were clocked lower than the equivalents, but that you still get the benefit of the V-cache for the games that need that extra cache. This time, by putting the cache on the bottom, they also made it so that it is spread out equally across the CCD. There's no more filler, so that means the hottest part, which is the CCD itself, is now closer to the ILM, which means it's going to be easier to dissipate the heat, and so it's allowing for higher boost clock. Now it is also officially allowing for overclocking. Which you could do PBO, which is
PBO
technically an overclock, but now they're saying it is a fully unlocked part because of this, and I mean they didn't give any specifications, but we will have to see with reviews how that is. But yeah, so that's the details. That's it's interesting. Brad, what do you think of this announcement? Are you excited?
I'm excited. I can't wait to see the benchmarks. I like the idea of advancing the V-cache technology, and I also think it's a really, really interesting time for this to come out, because AMD's Ryzen 9000 obviously had a very turbulent launch there. We had them on here to discuss it at one point. And the 285K, the Core Ultra part, came out, and it's like, it's a little bit slower than what we had before, so it's not exactly the best time. So we'll have to see if the special sauce in the V-cache is indeed special sauce. But if AMD can pull off some cool things with this, I mean, it seems like they have a good opening to like really, no doubt, claim the gaming championship here.
Yeah, and I mean, it was perfectly timed. We kind of alluded to it, but it was perfectly timed because the gaming performance on Arrow Lake was pretty underwhelming.
Kind of a wet fart.
Yeah, there's different ways to describe it, but it's not where those chips were excelling. So AMD already had a lead in most of the benchmarks that I saw, and then now they're throwing this on to just add insult to injury. So if you're looking for gaming stuff, then you're probably looking for to wait to see how the reviews of this pan out.
Well, I was gonna say that's. Oh, go ahead, Brad.
I was going to say, I hope it does well, because I'm just hoping not that I hope it does well. I hope it does well because the initial reaction to Ryzen 9000 and all those performance claims were so uproarious. Like, this is their chance to kind of claw back the narrative or just douse it in gasoline and set it on fire again. So I think it's going to be a momentous week for AMD either way.
Yeah, well, and by AMD's own claims, they are claiming in their testing suite, and we can kind of talk about that because that's you alluded to the Ryzen 9000 in the whole testing suite, all that kind of stuff. But they're saying this chip, the 9800X3D, is on average up to 20% faster than the Ultra 9 285K.
Is that games or
in gaming specifically?
Okay. I mean, the interesting thing for me is that with the 7800, and just to be clear, I have a 7800X3D in my machine at home. It's what I end up settling on after my travails with the Raptor Lake.
Yeah, after you went through all the stock in here and was just like, I want to kill that CPU. Let's kill this one too.
Let me see how
that
much
one over
hardware I
there.
can
Let's kill
destroy.
it.
So, like, it was a little, but it was a difficult choice because you were giving up a fair amount of multi-core performance, and because of the way the throttling worked under high multi-core workloads, specifically on that 7800. So if this flip chip design fixes that, it seems like there's a no compromise choice for people who like to play games and also do relatively high threaded workloads. Potentially, and we'll see on, I guess, Thursday.
Also with gaming as well. So that's the thing is that, and that's something I've always been a little critical of like, it's hard to tell necessarily what's going to benefit from that Vcache. Like in the games that love it, it really makes a difference. But there's, I feel like that is one kind of bummer from a consumer end, is that there's no way to look forward into, the next year of games that are releasing and being like, oh man, I can't wait because this game is going to definitely benefit from the Vcache. I mean, there's certain engines. I'm sure there's certain ways to kind of maybe extrapolate, but you just don't know. But there are some titles that we know of that prefer higher clocks. Yeah. So being able to hit those higher clocks kind of give you the best of both worlds in theoretically in my mind. I will say AMD is claiming, so on average up to 20% faster than the Ultra 9, but they're saying on average 8% faster than the previous gen, which is the 7800 X3D. So 8%. What do you feel about that? Do you feel like 8% is a good enough uplift, especially considering there is a $30 price increase?
Yeah, we'll have to wait for reviews. Obviously, I always caveat with that, but to me, if you remember back to Ryzen 9000, Steve at Hardware Unboxed did tons of testing around that. And in all the various configurations, he wound up discovering that, Ryzen 9000 in gaming was 3 to maybe 5% faster than its equivalents from the 7000 series. So if AMD is being honest and truthful here, which I suspect they are because they got their hand slapped so hard with all that performance stuff around the Ryzen 9000 launch, to get it up to 8% over the 7800 X3D, I think that's pretty good because it still has to work with the underlying Ryzen 9000 architecture. So it has to build on top of that.
Yeah, and I mean, there definitely have been updates. Obviously, the whole kerfuffle with Windows updates and thread scheduling, all that kind of stuff. So I'm not quite sure. I didn't look into the details of the 8% claims that they're claiming, so I don't know if maybe the 8% is coming from the updates or if it's coming from the higher boost clocks.
Probably a mix of both.
Yeah, maybe a mix of both. Friend of the show, Ziv, in the chat says that 8% is fine for new builders. I do wonder, how many people are going to be like, you know what, I'm just going to sit on the 7800 X3D. Or, I mean, there's people out there with 5800 X3D systems that are still, sitting pretty as well.
That's what I was going to say. To me, a lot of people, I think, skip the 7000 X3D because the 5800 X3D came out, kicked so much ass. 7800 X3D, indeed itself, still kicked ass, but the leap over the 5800X wasn't that much. And you had to upgrade to AM5. You had to get DDR5. Like, there's huge platform costs involved. Well, so to me, the thing I'm really interested in looking at is how the 9800X compares to the 5800X 3D, because I suspect there's quite a few people who've been waiting for years to try to get off of that chip.
Well, and like, just to be clear, like, the same time to upgrade your CPU should be a sometimes upgrade, not an always upgrade, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Like, it's a thing that, like, just because you have the socket and you have the same socket in your motherboard doesn't mean you go out and buy the new one every other year or every 18 months when they release new CPUs.
I mean, if you there are some people that do,
yeah.
Sure, but like, no hate.
But like, I wouldn't expect a 10% increase generation over generation is what I would expect. When you get more than that, it's a gift, not an expectation. It shouldn't be an expectation.
Yeah. Obviously, we're 2 days away from the launch, so there's definitely more details to go over there. But I don't know. I'm curious, and I do remember when Ryzen 9000 launched. There was definitely a lot of people being like, "Oh man, this is such a ho hum launch with a bunch of weird stuff going on. What does this actually mean for the X3D versions of this when it comes out?" And Yeah, I guess we'll
know soon.
Waiting with bated breath. Also, yeah, no official claim about the other part of the stack. I do find that interesting that last year a lot of people got real mad because AMD actually launched with the top end and then worked their way down.
The dual CCD.
Yeah. So the dual CCD one actually launched first, and then the highest end of the stack, the 7950 X3D launched first, then the 7900 X3D, and then last was the 8-core part. And a lot of people yelled at AMD because, oh wow, you're just sandbagging because everyone just wants the 8-core version, and now they're here to be like, okay, all right, you know what? We're just going to launch with the 8-core version first up, and not even mention the other ones. I mean, we don't know. Maybe those come out before the end of the year. Maybe that's a CES thing. I'm not quite sure. But
I'm not mad about it.
Yeah.
I think that the X3D chips, like those 8-core single die parts, are their sweet spot. And that's also the sweet spot for the vast majority of gamers out there. Even if you stream and stuff like that, 8 cores, 3DB cache, like that's what these really should be targeting. So I was actually pleased to see they launched with this time.
I mean, if you're playing games and you care about perf, the 7800 X3D, even if you're streaming, the solution if you care about perf is not to get a giant multi-core CPU that's going to be slower in games so you have more threads. It's to have a second computer that does all the streaming stuff that sits next to your gaming computer, and yeah.
Theoretically.
So Ruru in the chat, Rurudu, sorry, in the chat had asked why we care about CPU performance at 1080p.
Great
Which
question.
is a good question because it comes up a lot. Yeah.
I mean, and I would say there's different ways to approach that. And everybody does approach it differently, I think. Like part of the argument, I'm gonna throw out the first part.
Okay.
I think we can go through the different steps.
This is first pitch in the
yeah.
Throw out that heater.
If you look at the Steam hardware survey, most people are still gaming at 1080p.
But also, in the modern context, it is extremely difficult to get a benchmark to be not GPU limited at resolutions above 1080p. Like really hard. And when you benchmark stuff below 1080p, people get really upset and yell at you. So you can't do that because of
you could.
The chat out there.
We actually switched to 1080p, I think maybe 5 years ago. We were doing 720p before that because the whole point is to make it as CPU bound as possible.
Yeah.
So the point is, in a modern gaming machine, like in a modern gaming machine, especially after the 4080, but even as early as like the 1080 and 1080 Ti, if you were running at higher than 1080p resolution, you were almost certainly gated by CPU performance. In some way, unless you had the very latest, very highest end overclocked to hell CPU. And so we test to do CPU benchmarks as CPU bound as possible so that the GPU performance doesn't factor into that benchmark. So the GPU performance factors into that benchmark as little as possible.
Well, but then the other side, a lot of people are like, well, that's not realistic because that's not how people play games. Are you really going to play games that, with 4090 at 1080p high quality?
I do every day.
There we go. Actually, we have somebody in the chat.
Pro gamer.
Yeah. JW Dickinson says, I'm still playing 1080p but high refresh.
Yeah.
But a lot of people have moved on to 1440p high refresh as well. So
I don't like that argument. Like, to me, there are two different kind of reviews you should look at. Like, the way that we do it, the way the Gamers Next do it. A bunch of different folks. We tested at 1080p, previously 720p, because what we're really trying to do is identify the strengths and weaknesses of this CPU versus others. If you're looking to see what realistically a configuration like yours might get in a game, you're going to want to go look like Babbletech does like 50 game freaking tests at all different resolutions. That's what you want to go find, because that's when you're looking for specific advice for your specific configuration. There's a very different meaning behind both.
Yeah, and actually, friend of the show, Ziv, I think puts it best. There's both benchmarking styles are valid, academic versus pragmatic, right? Because the other part of the equation, while it's not completely tied into it, we explicitly test with repeatable in-game benchmarks, right? And some people actually use the latest games and try to find their own repeatable way to do it, kind of things as well. So there's different ways to slice that as well. So I've seen many people be like, "Oh my God, you're still running Shadow of the Tomb Raider? Like, who's playing that? Why are you even doing that?"
But so the point is that theoretically the repeatable games are going to be indicative of performance in more current games.
Yeah.
And also, if a game performs well at 1080p on that CPU, it will also perform well at 4K or 1440p. But the bottleneck may shift from the CPU to the GPU. So you're accentuating the benefits at X game and X resolution so that you can actually see them. Because often, especially in a world where the 4090 exists and is a friggin' juggernaut, it's really, really hard to get meaningful performance differences out of CPUs. But like when you test those CPUs with the higher resolutions and the bigger GPUs, you're still going to see the benefit. Like the benefit will be there. Your frame rates will go up, just maybe not as much as they would at the lower resolutions.
I hate that this is even a discussion point. Testing at low res used to just be like common knowledge. Everyone was fine with it. Everyone understood why it was. The reason that has become such a big problem over the last several years was actually because of AMD mudslinging when the first gen Ryzen came out. Because I don't know if people remember when first gen Ryzen came out. I actually did an article that got me a lot of hate mail. I upgraded to it because I wanted all those cores, but it performed in games worse than my 3570K my 5 years old one that I had at the time. So at the time, AMD came out and said, why is everyone testing at 720p? That doesn't make sense. Look, if you run all these games on Ryzen at 4K, it all equals out with Intel, and it's the same thing. So it was like a sleight of hand, like trying to trick people. And since then, it's been a thing.
Yeah. But once again, I mean, I actually think that it's good that there's multiple different approaches because, you know, everyone should go watch or read or you know, different point of views, different testing styles to kind of, you know, try to get an amalgamation of the information that you want to get out of it. So yeah, I mean, it's not right or wrong. I think just everyone has a different style, and as long as it's explicitly stated how you're testing, what you're actually testing for, why you're testing it, you know, I think those things are always good, especially for people who might not have the common knowledge. I mean, I think most of the people who are watching this do. But yeah, and then there was another good point, and I'm sorry that this was a while ago. I want to, I can't remember who said it, but another point is saying, hey, testing at 1080p now, even though you theoretically could run at a 1440p or 4K, helps maybe you understand how it's going to hold up years later, because the 4K of today might be the 1080p. You know, as time goes on, you're going to have to lower settings with your setup as new technologies come out. So
that's exactly true, and that's a big part of the reason we tested that resolution.
Yeah. So
there you go.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, you know, we'll have some testing to show off as well. Like I said, the CPU is available on Thursday.
Thursday. This Thursday?
Yeah, the November 7th. Is that? Yes, it is. I did my math correctly.
Yes.
November 7th. So yeah, we'll see how it shakes up.
Do you think it's actually going to be available, or is it going to be like the 285K where you can't really find it anywhere?
I don't know. I feel like the X3D parts have usually been not paper launches, right? I mean, I feel like
they launched this one pretty quick though, so we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. So not quite sure. We will see. So let's move on because we got a couple other things to get to. So also linked in the description is a report written up by one Michael Kreider on PCWorld, talking about a report put out by according to a new report by Digitimes Asia. They report that Nvidia is designing a combined CPU GPU system on a chip, SoC, specifically for consumer PCs that would compete head to head with Qualcomm's Snapdragon X. So that obviously means ARM. And man, I don't know. I feel like for a while now we've heard rumblings of Nvidia wanting to get into the processor game.
Didn't they do this? Is this what Tegra was?
I mean, it still is. I mean, they still manufacture it for the Switch, right? So
I mean, yeah, it's like 10 years old at this point, probably, right?
Yeah.
Like they're dusting off.
I mean, as far as I know, they're still manufacturing Tegra. So yeah, But I think, I mean, this is specifically for Windows, to come at Windows, right? To say, hey,
to get that hot ARM laptop game going.
I guess, because I mean, Brad, I don't know if you edited this article, but what are you taking away from this report?
I think it makes a lot of sense. I'm still not fully convinced. I am fully convinced that NVIDIA's probably been thinking about this for a while. One, because they do already make the Tegra inside the Switch. Two, because they spend a lot of time and money making ARM processors for the data center. And they actually just tried buying ARM. So all of this makes sense. And there have been rumors, reports, leaks, whatever you want to call them, that Qualcomm has had an exclusivity agreement with Microsoft for ARM chips that expire at the end of this year. The ARM CEO, Rene Haas, even when asked about it, he said, yeah, I believe I've heard something like that, and I think it expires in 2025.
Is that specifically for like Surface and Surface Pro type computers?
Windows
or?
in general. We've
Okay.
only seen Qualcomm, Copilot Plus, etc. PCs.
Got it. Okay.
So it makes a lot of sense. I mean, if they can now that Qualcomm's getting a lot of the teething issues out with ARM, NVIDIA can coast in here a year from now and have a pretty decent chip. Because again, the ARM CPUs they make for these crazy data center pods that they make are baller insane. Like, they're really good. And then you tack on some like integrated form of GeForce graphics in there. Like, I can see the appeal. I can see what they're thinking.
But I mean, building ARM processors for data centers is a little bit of a different environment than putting them in a laptop, right? Like,
very.
Yeah, because you're a little less concerned about power consumption, or I guess your power consumption thresholds are different in a laptop than in a data center part. It's. I mean, I felt like they had a pretty good run with the Tegra stuff for a while, and then the Switch came out, and then it just kind of fell off entirely. Like, they had for a while they were putting Tegras in cars, and there was like this whole thing going on. And then
the Shield,
the Shield was a thing. They still kind of sell Shields, but they haven't updated it in about 5 years, I think, at this point.
I thought there was actually a recent update.
There have been rumors, I believe. So, I mean, maybe they're just on a 5-year product cycle for this thing, and this is, this is where we're at. But I don't know. It's also possible that this, the ARM purchase for Nvidia fell out because of regulatory concerns in the UK or the EU, and it's possible that we're seeing this. That this is the work that was being done in anticipation of that being approved, and they didn't want to throw away the $500 million they spent developing these chips. So here we are.
Well, I'm seeing a quick Google search returns that the Nvidia Shield TV, according to TechRadar, is still a great streaming box and just got its first update in a year, and that was 3 weeks ago.
So what was the update? Is it just an ad to buy the new one? That's my favorite kind of game.
Right? Yeah.
Hey guys, we got.
I was trying to get someone who works with us to do an article about how awesome the Nvidia Shield box is for, it's the ultimate media streamer, especially if you play PC games and whatnot. But he's like, yeah, man. It got an update a year ago. The last one was a year and a half before that. I'm not recommending this to anybody at this point.
It's so expensive still too,
yeah.
right?
And
it's like $300.
Yeah. Looks like the change log is a bunch of small little things, so it's kind of interesting.
Fixed the daylight savings time changeover times.
God, I don't know. So yeah, I'm not quite sure about that, but I mean, I think here's the thing. I think if this comes to fruition, the obvious place is a laptop, right? That they're aiming 100%. For this. Yeah,
handheld.
I mean, yes, I'm excited for it. I mean, obviously they are in the Switch, which I would say is the best-selling handheld out of all of them.
All time.
Yeah,
well, not like a...
Actually, it might be all time.
I don't think it's beat... It's 140 million units. It's not beat 3DS yet, I don't think.
Either way, if you look at it, it's like, okay, well, NVIDIA owns the handheld market share. As much as we love our gaming PCs and handheld PCs, and, AMD does amazing work there, if you look at all gaming handhelds, not just Windows-based, they do have a market share.
It,
so, I could see them maybe being like, okay, well, we should be able to translate this into Windows based or maybe even Steam OS based. I mean, who knows? But I do think that is a subset. I don't think that's their main strategy. I think this feels like a play for laptops rather than desktops or handhelds.
I mean, Qualcomm did say that ARM was going to be half of Windows PCs by 2030. So, maybe
just not theirs.
Maybe it's just not theirs. Yeah. Whoops.
Qualcomm does indeed say things sometimes. But the part that's really interesting to me, or not really interesting, I wonder if this will help NVIDIA break into like the Copilot kind of things too, because up until this point, NVIDIA's been pretty much locked out of there because AMD has a high-end chip, but getting an AMD and NVIDIA laptop is pretty hard these days. There doesn't seem to be a lot of supply of that has the NPU in it. Lunar Lake really isn't built for discrete graphics. Qualcomm isn't working with NVIDIA. Like NVIDIA, I honestly think like if you want the best AI PC experience today, get a desktop with a GeForce card inside. But they can't sell that whatsoever. Then Microsoft doesn't even let them run Copilot Plus stuff on their desktops with GPUs inside,
which is definitely weird. Because
it is weird.
Because Microsoft have been like, oh hey, you the only way to get Copilot is to have X amount of tops, and the GPU, Nvidia's over here with like
500 tops.
yeah, we got enough tops. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Now imagine if they do manage to come out with a laptop chip that has pretty baller GeForce graphics installed in there. So it'll have the tensor cores. It'll have support for ray tracing. Like, if they do manage to bring this out and put it out there and say, hey, we have all the Copilot stuff because, we're a Copilot PC. We have an NPU in there now. We also are going to give you all this NVIDIA stuff on top of it. You can do everything that we already do on the desktop, but it's part of your AI experience. I think they'd have a pretty compelling pitch for people who care about AI.
I mean, I think phase one is making that NPU do something on the existing Copilot Plus PCs.
Yeah.
Phase two,
it's something to work on.
I mean, look, we all have goals. Microsoft Squad goals. Let's go.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, here's the thing. NVIDIA was at this whole handheld thing like 8 years ago at this point, because they had that Tegra powered handheld. You could stream from your GeForce equipped PC to it. You could play like 18 games that they ported over to ARM. That was nice.
I still have the Shield tablet.
Yeah, that was the good one.
Yeah.
That thing was great, except for the controllers were kind of bad.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
And also, friend of the show points out the Ziv. They think the best use case for Tegra would be an embedded mini PC that they can repurpose that form into a handheld. I mean, you're kind of looking at the mini PCs to control your stuff at home.
Yeah.
I mean, Tegra is known to be low power. That switch barely sucks down any power.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, the NVIDIA drivers for Linux are incompatible or iffy with the Steam OS front end.
Oh, weird. Well, what if they figured that out?
I mean,
what if this came together to confluence? Like, hey, we worked with Steam OS, and it just so happened to release around the same time as
would be an incredible. I mean, look, I think there's possibility for two software coincidences to happen at once. One is that NVIDIA GPUs suddenly magically start working with Copilot Plus apps as an NPU because they're the same basic thing, and the other is, wow, what if NVIDIA's drivers for Linux were good enough to run this fancy 3D UI that Valve has made? Both of those things would be really nice.
Interesting.
Yeah. I'd love a $100 box I can plug into my TV, stream games across with. That would be delightful.
Yeah, I mean, imagine
Link.
And there is plenty of rumors about what the next Switch is going to be, but there's nothing confirmed yet. We don't know hard details. How it's going to shake out, but yeah, it sounds like they are in the next Switch, and it sounds like the form factor is pretty much going to be the same.
I think they're going to make it tall instead of wide. I think it's going to be like TikTok is really hot right now. It's going to be a portrait mode Switch.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. You just flip it this way.
You hold it like this, and then that's the whole thing.
If that fails, they can always just put out a badass Tetris port.
Yep. I'm ready. My predictions.
Pack it in.
Predictions are there, ready to go.
I like it. So yeah. It's an interesting report. If you want to know more about it, like I said, the link is in the description. Yeah. So we'll see. It says the report says Nvidia is hoping to launch the SoC product in September of 2025, and by my estimation, that is a little under a year away. So we got some time to see. Maybe that's something they'll announce at Computex next year. That timing could line up. So
well, I mean, theoretically, the Switch is. Nintendo said they weren't going to announce the Switch in 2024. Basically, they said they're going to. The new Switch successor is probably going to be announced early next year. So presumably, if there's a Tegra chip powering that, Tegra 3 or whatever, maybe it's Tegra and the E is a 3. I don't know.
Please no.
Freegra. They're going to roll that out presumably in this. I would assume that they announced that before or around the same time as the Nintendo thing, so they can get that fat stock bump.
Get that? Oh, yeah. Well, not that they need it.
Look,
that stock be bumping.
Look, Jensen can always use another boat.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of Computex and other trade shows, let's switch over to a possible CES 2025 appearance of RDNA 4. So
I'll be there. I might be able to see this.
Woohoo!
Hey.
Yeah. Hey, I will be too. That's funny. Yeah.
What a
Willis, are you going to be there?
Yeah, I'll be there too.
Oh, that's great. Oh, yeah. We should
You're
hang out
there?
together.
You're
Yeah.
there? Oh my
Hey,
goodness.
hey,
Will,
guys.
are you going to be there?
Am I going to be there?
Are you going to be there?
I don't know, man.
No.
Nobody said anything to me.
Oh, uh-oh. Well, yeah.
Aw.
We'll see you before or after, Anyway.
Aw.
So in a recent call, Dr. Lisa Su got on the phone. She was like, "Hey, this is Dr. Lisa Su."
Do you think she says get people on the horn?
Maybe.
You think she says horn when she wants to make a call to a
That'd
bunch
be
of
pretty
people?
funny. Yeah.
I
Get
bet she
people
does.
on the horn. I got to talk about GPUs.
Yeah.
Not just GPUs. There was a whole. I think it was an investor call, or was it a? I don't know what the call was.
To analysts.
It was a
analysts.
financial
Yeah.
thing.
She claimed that AMD has the strongest PC portfolio in the company's history. So
Didn't they earlier this year say they weren't going to compete at the high end?
yeah.
Yeah.
That is that has been mentioned. But yeah, she mentioned a roadmap update during the prepared remarks to analysts, describing the company's results during the third quarter of 2024, according to one Mark Hochman at PCWorld, link in the description. Roughly half of AMD's revenue comes from its data center products. And then the other part was the gaming business, which not just PCs, also console as well. But here's a direct quote, in addition to a strong increase in gaming performance, RDNA 4 delivers significantly higher ray tracing performance and adds new AI capabilities. We are on track, we are on track to launch the first RDNA 4 GPUs in early 2025, end quote, from Dr. Lisa Su. So early 2025. CES is in early 2025.
The Nvidia GPU Tech Conference is also in the early 2025. They could announce it there.
Oh,
probably CES though.
That would actually be pretty interesting.
That'd be amazing.
You're probably
It's not gonna
GTC.
happen.
You mean
GTC? Yeah.
So yeah, we don't know the details other than that, but RDNA 4 rumored to be the RX 8000 series of GPUs, otherwise known as Navi 48 and Navi 44. We do know they're not aiming at the top of the stack, but they, according to that quote, they're saying significantly higher ray tracing performance and adding new AI capabilities. Brad, what does that mean?
Hopefully it means they're going to start finally at least starting to catch up to Nvidia as far as ray tracing and FSR goes, machine learning, AI super sampling.
Does that mean some sort of dedicated cores, kind of like tensor cores in NVIDIA GPUs?
It doesn't necessarily have to mean that.
No.
AMD's been trying to brute force it mostly through GPU shaders with some less sophisticated ray tracing hardware.
Mm-hmm.
But I think at this point in history, it's clear that NVIDIA's dedicated hardware solution is the superior one, at least right now. So I wouldn't be surprised to see AMD go down that road. They've been kind of teasing. We've been seeing leaks about next-gen super FSR that in lean heavier on AI in some way. In fact, as I was just talking about, I've been playing Call of Duty a bunch recently, and they just this week teased that there's going to be some sort of ML-based specialty FSR coming to that game sometime in the next couple of months. So, yeah, I'm really interested to see. It could be a radical new redesign at CES.
I mean, it's the right time for them to have good ray tracing hardware, because like we've reached a point where it's not just Cyberpunk and then a bunch of games you're probably never going to play. Like we're seeing like Alan Wake. We're seeing a lot of little stuff, like little ray tracing and stuff. I haven't actually spent enough time with Black Ops 6 yet to see if there's actual ray tracing in the game or if it's still just in the menu.
It's not even in the menu this time.
What?
Yeah. I mean, different developers. So,
anyway.
Yeah.
But like Star Wars Outlaws had some cool ray tracing stuff that when you flipped it on, you're like, oh, this looks really nice.
Silent Hill 2.
Yeah,
ray
Silent Hill
tracing.
2. Yeah. The Alan Wake Lake House stuff is gorgeous when you flip it on. So yeah, good for them. I'm stoked.
Also, this could be a precursor for seeing whatever technology might be integrated in next consoles as well, right?
Didn't the current consoles just come out like a year and a half ago? I feel like the PS5 is brand
2020,
new.
2021.
Oh man,
We got a couple of years. PS5 Pro's coming out right now. I bet you've got 2 years.
I know, but that means they're probably trying to spec out what that looks like now. And so, yeah, like I think that might be a good indication of what's coming out on the PC now might be then integrated into consoles of the future.
It'll be this generation or maybe like a hybrid of this generation and some stuff from next generation.
I think it's getting the
consoles.
place.
Well, and we do know, I mean, one of the big selling points of the PS5 Professional is better ray tracing capabilities. So ray tracing is definitely on top of mind of all these companies. AMD wants to be there, but we know they're not going to be at the top end of the stack. They've said that they are not gunning for the top end of the stack. So that means, I mean, that would then have to mean that if they're targeting more entry level or mid range of the stack, that they're trying to be the leader in ray tracing capabilities there. So like do you think that alone, like if AMD comes out and is like, hey, you know what, our highest end card is still quote unquote mid range, but we have way better ray tracing performance compared to last gen. Do you think that's enough to really like push people over the edge?
I like to see it. Like, I'm glad that they're embracing these modern techniques, but AMD has tried this "we're the value pick" thing like 3 or 4 different times over the last 15 years. Yeah, so I need to see the proof in the pudding before I get too excited.
I think here's the thing. The last couple of generations of GPUs, AMD has had really price competitive parts for traditional raster and traditional games, right?
It was just hard to get a hold of them.
Well, I mean, yes.
Yeah.
But also, if there was always that caveat that like, hey, if you want to play Cyberpunk and you want it to look real dope, you probably want an Nvidia GPU because you're going to need DLSS for ray tracing to be performant enough at any of these mid-range prices. If they're going to release a GPU that actually gives you good ray tracing perf at 1440p 1080p and those mid-range parts, that's really exciting. That's good. Like that is going to be like that will hurt Nvidia in the fat part of the sales curve, not like but like you said, this is I think the 4th time I remember them going this route, and it never worked out well before. And a lot of it's on their day one driver support and like just fundamentals of hey, we're making a video card where you buy a new game the day it comes out and you're like, oh man, this is really janky. And then 3 months later, there's a driver update that fixes the game that you're not playing anymore. So,
and I feel like
I am glad to see him finally embrace this. I feel like they got caught flat-footed by
the ray tracing
RTX 20 series, ray tracing DLSS. So I think this is them finally setting it right. They've been working towards it, but this stuff doesn't happen overnight.
Well, I mean, and in fairness, this is really like this is the first time that we've seen more than a handful of ray tracing games a year that you're like that I'm looking forward to playing. I don't want to speak for everybody.
Actually, tangent, but came out I think late last week. Hardware Unboxed Tim did a really, really excellent video of both performance testing and visual testing of every game that has ray tracing available so far, and split them up into subjective, like, don't waste your time with this. It's worth the ray tracing in this game because it looks so good and it changes things. And if folks haven't seen that, go check it out. It's an awesome video.
Was it on Hardware Unboxed?
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, friend of the show, Kyle Wild in the chat said, if AMD has actually good ray tracing performance, I would buy an RDNA card. You need to have good RT for viewport rendering on Blender. Good point.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's not just play, but work. This is the thing. I feel like over the years that we've done this podcast, 2016 is when we started. I feel like every once in a while we do talk like, hey, here are the new market share numbers for GPU, and Nvidia still is over 80%. What does AMD? What can AMD do to get in there? And I mean, this is, I mean, to some like Kyle, I mean, this is a part of the equation. I don't know if it's enough, but it is part of the equation to say, hey, we have now parity with ray tracing performance. I mean, to tell you the truth, in my small form factor gaming rig at home that I have hooked up to my TV, I had started with a 7900 XTX in there, but I actually switched it out because I wanted to play the Alan Wake 2, and I wanted to play the Phantom Liberty DLC with all the ray tracing bells and whistles, and I started with that 7900 XTX, and I mean, it's a great card, but between the power that card ate up compared to the 4080 that I replaced it with, and also the ray tracing performance, I was like, okay, wow, this is, they're not quite there in some ways, but
they got so close. That XTX, the 7900 XTX, wound up being roughly on par with the 3090. But once the 40 series came out, like, that doesn't matter anymore. And I'm hoping that AMD can kind of get ahead of the curve. I don't think they're necessarily going to beat NVIDIA Blackwell in ray tracing. I think NVIDIA has a big leg ahead there. But if they can get close enough to it, and I think the biggest thing for AMD, if they really truly want to get market share, is to think about their pricing. I know that graphics cards cost so much more to make these days. TSMC charges way more for wafers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But like the 6 and 7000 series were really excellent GPUs, but they lacked the ray tracing and they lacked the AI stuff. And then AMD only priced them $50-ish less than Nvidia. And if you really want to make a dent, you gotta be more aggressive than that.
And raster was good, but yeah, there's all those other things. I mean, FSR has gotten better, but DLSS still outpaces it in a lot of ways. The software suite, there's a lot of people who are like, oh, I love NVIDIA broadcasts, things like that, but also just the name, like I do wonder, it really is hard.
Well, and there's like for more professional users, like the Blender thing that was mentioned a minute ago is one of them. A lot of the Unreal stuff requires NVIDIA if you're an Unreal developer, right? Like you're not going to get like the GPU
requires
the GPU Lightmass is all CUDA based, so you can't run like you have to have an NVIDIA card for that, which means that for a lot of people in that industry, especially if you want people to be able to test stuff and all that, you're going to have your studio running on NVIDIA rather than AMD. So
I'm excited about this because I think part of the reason AMD is pushing this, one, is because they need to getting their lunch eaten over DLSS. Yeah. But two, it also ties into the broader AI plays that all these chip companies are trying to do these days. So I'm hoping they actually dedicated some serious resources to this and are looking to come in swinging.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So interesting. We will see. Once again, we'll be at CES. So I guess, if we see it there, then we'll see it there and hopefully be able to report live from the show floor.
Do you think we'll be lucky enough, like you did, was it sometime this year, that we'll find an RDNA 4 on a plane?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Southwest, I know they're changing the way that they're doing their seating. So, maybe I won't be able to line up the same seats that somebody else was on, but that would be funny. Yeah.
Yeah, it's assigned seating now on the Southwest, so you can't.
Wait, what?
Yeah, they changed their policy to assigned seating.
Yeah, they announced it. No, I'm bummed. I like that.
Do you like the bus?
Yeah, I like the bus.
Elbow your way to the front.
Yeah, you.
I would always spend the $15 extra to get priority.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I liked it. It was a crapshoot. You're just like, okay, I'm. This is the spot I'm in line. What do those people look like? Do they look like aisle, or do they look like window people? I don't know. What am I gonna get?
You know what I liked was when I was traveling with a small child, and we're like, oh God, we got to do Southwest for this. It's so much cheaper. And then you're like, oh, well, our connection was late, so we're just gonna be I'm just gonna put my infant child between two other people. It's their problem because all that's left is centers. And then there's always a big scene and somebody complains, everybody's angry at you. It's no, thank you. It's a terrible system.
I like it.
Reserved seats, please. Anyway. We're in a society, okay, Adam?
Will you swap seats with us? No, man. I don't have my window cool. Have a baby in the middle.
Yeah. Enjoy my baby.
Yeah, put your kid there.
She needs to be fed in about 2 hours, and if she poops, I'm sorry. Good luck.
Good luck.
Good luck. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, RDNA 4.
Yeah.
We'll see. Anyway, let's get to viewer Q&A, so we can get out of here. If you have a question and you're watching live right now, get it in the chat at the Full Nerd Podcast, or if you are watching or listening to this later, there's a link in the description over to our fine folks over on Discord, which there's a channel called Full Nerd Questions that you can drop a question there and might get it read on this here show. So let's start with a question over on the Full Nerd Discord. A friend of the show, Cause MC, asks, how far are we from actually seeing Cam in the wild? This is a good question. Definitely one for Gordon as well. I think I might ask him when he's able to join on another episode.
This is double M Cam, not NZXT's Cam software.
Yes, not Cam software, but the Cam module for a DRAM. So actually, Gordon did do a video on Cam in a released laptop product. It was a Lenovo, I believe. Yeah. So we have technically seen it in the wild. I wouldn't say it's common at all yet. And we did see that big push of motherboard manufacturers testing Cam modules on desktop platforms. So I mean, we've seen it, but how abundant is it? Do you get a sense? I mean, obviously we review a lot of laptops on PCWorld.
Yeah.
Have we reviewed any laptops with Cam in it?
We haven't yet. I think we're still in the early infant stages of this. They're starting to show it off. Here's some test motherboards. Here's one or two laptops. They're getting the feelers out for it. If you think back to any memory generational shift, like going from DDR3 to DDR4 or 4 to 5, it always takes you a couple of years for that to fully populate and filter through. And those are still using the same form factor even. So I think we're going to see more of Cam. It seems like a really, really smart idea. I like a lot of the aspects of it. But assuming this testing does work out, I think it's going to take us a year or two before we start to see it all over the place.
Yeah, and Gordon has done a lot of following this, so he's definitely the expert on that. So I'll wait for some more deeper discussion around that and what his thoughts are. But yeah, it's something he's been excited for since day one. He's followed it even through the whole trade-off to JEDEC and making sure the spec is something that it gets widely adopted and not just used for Dell products. So. Yeah,
I would say Gordon's probably been the journalist who's been driving a lot of that attention, actually. So if we can ask him when he's on, I think that'd be great.
Yeah. Another related RAM question from friend of the show, Stained Glass. So with regards to CU DIMMs, which is the clocked driver modules, which, I had planned to do some testing around the higher modules. You did some testing.
We talk about we can talk about
we've
that
got
now.
some numbers. Yeah, so in our testing, which was very limited, we kind of used it to with a little bit of time that you had. Do you think paying for those CU DIMM kits are worth the increase?
No,
what?
It was.
Well, let me bring up the hard numbers.
I don't have access to the numbers because they're inside your corporate firewall.
They're in here.
I have to get invited again and again.
They're in the computer.
I mean, they were on my browser for whatever reason. Anyway, the point is, it was a little bit faster. It wasn't enough to save Arrow Lake.
Yeah. We were looking at you're looking at around the Arrow Lake launch because if you try to use these on a AMD motherboard,
you get a
does not
giant
work.
screen that says, "Hey man, we don't know what to do with this. Consider updating your BIOS or putting a different stick in."
And I think you did try to slot these in 14th gen. And it did post, but it posted at real slow speeds.
It posted and was weird. I might not have posted at all. I can't remember. Gordon talked about it a little bit in his video. It's like the second to last bookmark or something.
All right, so we got some numbers here. So these were at the time of the review of the 285K
So a week and a half ago.
Versus the 14900K versus the 9950X.
Only
so
a week and a half ago.
Maybe 2 weeks ago. I don't know. It seems like 100 years.
Yeah, right. So Cyberpunk 2077 tested at 1080p, ultra preset, no upscaling, and no RT.
Yep.
The 285K with the standard DDR5 DIMMs clocked at 6,000 megatransfers per second, turning a score of 161 frames per second. The 285K with the CUDIM kit placed in it. Do you remember the speed? I actually don't.
8200, I think, or 8400. I can't remember.
8400. It was a Kingston Fury 216 gig for 32 total of 32 gigs, 8400 megatransfers per second.
Just to be clear, it was a fairly substantial process to get it to run at that speed. Like, it took me multiple hours of fiddling with stuff and adjusting settings, and like the documentations provided did not adequately explain how to make this work.
But it's got to be worth it. Let's look at the
Yeah,
numbers.
let me tell you, it's worth something.
We jumped from 161 frames per second to 168 frames per second.
Yeah, 7 frames a second.
Okay, well maybe it's just that game. F1 2023 1080p high preset, no upscale.
Just to be clear, this is probably the most CPU bound benchmark we do. This is going to show you the biggest improvement in performance, blah, blah, blah.
380 frames on the standard kit on the 285K.
Yeah.
Versus 397.
17 frames a second. Just to be clear, the Ryzen 9950X knocked down 450 frames a second in that same benchmark.
Woo. Okay.
The underwhelming Ryzen 9950X.
All right. We got one more here. Total War Warhammer 3. Which, not the best CPU benchmark. It's an interesting one for a lot of reasons. But
it's more multi-threaded, I think, is the
1080p ultra preset, no upscale or RT on the battle scenario. 256 versus 264.
I mean, 8 frames a second. Back in the
bigger bar better.
Back in the Quake,
that's what we say here at the Full Nerd. Bigger bar better.
That's what you say here. I'm a contractor.
Well, not just me. It's Gordon. I can't take credit.
Look, I think there's a time in my life when I would have gotten really excited about 8 or 10 frames a second, and it's when Quake 3 was running at 55 frames a second. Right? These days, correct. I don't care. Meh.
Well, I feel like in the news recently. Here it is. MSI and Kingston break the DDR5 memory overclocking record, pushing a Fury Renegade DDR5 CUDIM kit, which I think is the same one we have, to a whopping 12,196 megatransfers per second. Well, world record.
So part of the problem, though, is that you have to put in gear 2 or whatever. You change the multiplier ratio. So the memory is running at a higher speed, but the number of cycles that it runs or something is off by 2. It runs 2 memory clocks for every cycle between the CPU and the memory. The upshot is some weird stuff happens, and the performance impact is not as substantial as going from, say, DDR 5300 to DDR 6400 or DDR 7200, right? Like there's some shenanigans happening, and the number's bigger, and the bar is ever so slightly longer.
Well, and to be fair, Rurutu points out the 1% lows might have been better. We
did not test 1% lows.
We did not test 1% lows, so maybe. But also, I mean, at that point, if you're buying that expensive of a kit of RAM just to get better 1% lows,
and I didn't get
more
to this,
power to you.
I didn't get to this point, but this was running dual channel mode.
Yes,
getting it to run in dual channel mode at 8200 and 8400 megatransfers is a little challenging. So one of the recommendations is, hey, if it doesn't work, put it in single channel mode, which then means you have like you're halving your bandwidth again to double your clock speed, almost, kind of. Like it's
so theoretically getting faster clock speeds, but lowering the bandwidth,
overall bandwidth. Yeah, it's like this will be a thing eventually. Don't worry about it right now is kind of the TLDR.
I mean,
right?
and Gordon's not here, so I can't quote him verbatim, and he was excited about this.
Yeah,
like he took briefings, he's covered it. I mean, he talked about it in the previous episode. Like he has been following this. He loves DRAM advancements. Even him, after we saw those numbers, even he was like, "Oh yeah, this isn't this isn't anything anybody should care about."
I was gonna say the thing we didn't test because it's actually really hard. Like, it's hard. PUBG is one of those games that's really, really memory bandwidth limited. It has been since it launched in 2017. It still is today. I didn't take the time to build a PUBG benchmark because they're good for one patch. And like when I was doing the benchmarking, it was on a day that they might do a patch and we didn't know yet. So I didn't want to get half of my numbers done and then have like come in the next day to run the other half and like have the, PUBG do an update and then have me redo all that work again. So, like there are probably games out there where this will show a pretty substantial improvement. It's probably edge case stuff that most normal people aren't playing anymore. And like in the games that we test, the improvement was negligible and definitely not worth the hassle of getting this running versus just putting in a couple of nice sticks of DDR6000 or 6400 or whatever.
No, I actually do have a question. Maybe we can figure out a way to make a poll out of this, but if people in the chat who are watching live right now, I would love to hear what your kit is running at, because we kind of had this internal debate of like, I mean, this is something we always talk about, like when a new CPU launches, hey, how do we test the RAM kits? Some people test it at the recommended speeds for each CPU. Some people like us kind of even it out to take that variability out. Some people run it at JEDEC. There's different ways definitely to test it. So if everybody could spam the chat real quick, I would love to just get a small little sample size of what kind of speeds people are running on their system. So yeah, it's curious. Yeah, good question. More to come for CUDIM. And
I think mine's like 66 or 6200.
Yeah,
I'm at 64, I think, these days.
Yeah,
maybe 6. I can't remember.
We tested at 6,000 for this latest round of testing. But yeah, I think my sticks are 6400. All right, we got one from friend of the show, Ziv. Are the tech media and enthusiasts, quote unquote, the internet, being a little italics overly negative on the Arrow Lake launch? How much do you think sentiment might improve if Intel fixes most or all of the bugs and drops pricing a little in a few months like they did with Arc? This is a good question. Ziv actually asked this a week or two ago when we talked about the review. I guess it was last week. But I wanted to hold on to it at least a week just to kind of gauge the temperature now, because it has been out a little bit, where we got to consume other people's takes and kind of see where the chips, pardon the pun, fell. Brad, what do you think? Do you think everyone's being a little overly negative?
I don't think people are necessarily being overly negative, but this is exactly what I expected off of whenever they switched off of Rocket Lake. Like the way that Rocket Lake kept getting such sky-high power usage and such sky-high clocks just by juicing the hell out of it that was made for gaming and desktops and everything. We knew they were trying to move to this tile-based system. And yes, there are bugs. There will always be bugs, especially at first when you're introducing all these new kinds of E-cores and stuff like that. Like Windows gets confused. AMD's had the same thing. But I think underneath the hood, like there's a lot of really interesting technological advantages there. I like what they're doing as far as the multi-core and productivity side of things. Gaming was in fact underwhelming, but again, I've been thinking for 3 years now that whenever they get off of Rocket Lake, it's going to be a fall on your face kind of generation for games. But they wound up better than I thought they would actually. They got pretty close to a 14900K, 14700K. I thought it was going to be an even bigger gulf with gaming. So it's like a reset.
This is like the end of the steroid era in baseball, right? Like, like you have all these guys with arms the size of your thighs, and you're like, man, these guys are huge. Look at how good they can hit the ball. And then all of a sudden they're like, hey, we're gonna start testing for steroids next year and human growth hormone. And everybody's like, oh man, I'm retiring. I'm out. This has been a good run. Barry Bonds out. Whatever. I mean, it's the same situation. Nvidia's been hooked on that sweet, sweet juice. I mean, Intel's been hooked on that sweet, sweet juice, and now they got to deal with the aftermath. And you got a bunch of little skinny guys coming out to swing the bat, and the ball don't go as far. So it will get there. It'll take a little bit.
I like that. Yeah, and I would say the other end of the equation, because I care more about the content creation and productivity side, because I'm curious in that end. And yeah, I mean, for gaming, yeah, I mean, we all see the numbers. But for content creation, there are actually good wins in that arena, even against the latest Ryzen 9000 stuff. So like there were definitely times where I was just like, oh wow, this is better than the 14th gen. This is better than Ryzen 9000. For like Premiere Pro, I believe was one of them that if I can go back and look at the numbers, that I was just like, oh, okay, this is actually a good uptick. I mean, Handbrake for video encoding actually did pretty good. What is this? DaVinci Resolve? Nah, it's about the same. But yeah.
And for anybody who doesn't like their PC to also double as their space heater, like both of these chips are wins.
That's the other thing too.
Yeah.
Yes.
I feel like it's a, you know, I know we hate this term, but a mixed bag, right? Like I don't think it's a complete just, you know, no one should ever look at it for anything. Like there are reasons that it's like, oh, okay, like I mean if you're somebody who like just lives and breathes Premiere Pro, then it's like, okay, like why would you not look at this? This is a good option. Not that the AMD option is not good, but Intel does have a reason to be in that game. But yeah, if you're a pure gamer, then I can understand people just not being that excited.
Even still, I mean, even not just pure gamer. To me, like the bugs that we're seeing with Windows and Thread Scheduler and stuff like that, like I consider the Core Ultra Series 2 a very promising restart. Would I perhaps go out there and buy it myself? No, I wouldn't. I think that Ryzen is a more polished overall package. I think part of the problem is when Microsoft needs to figure out how to use these new E-cores. The fact that when you change the power profiles, performance tanks, but power doesn't whatsoever, that's like shocking to me. And just off of that alone, I probably wouldn't buy these chips because that seems like a pretty profound error. But as a chip itself, it's fine. I think I have said, and I still firmly believe, I think we're in an era now where there's no such thing as a bad chip, man. All these things are fine.
Well, and then the one thing I will say about the coverage is that I'm not going to call anybody out in particular here. Man, don't do arrow leg to the knee jokes, please. I saw so many of those last week. So many of those.
You know, to each their own.
No, man. No, usually I'm a live and let live person. Skyrim's like a 20-year-old game at this point.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, yeah, I do think I say this over and over again. Don't buy based off of future promises, but I do think there is a potential, 3-6 months down the line that maybe we should re-review these and look and be like, oh, okay, what updates have come out since then? Where does it land? I don't think there's probably going to be a magic bullet that all of a sudden is just like, hey, wow, this thing, is getting 100% more frames than it used to be. But I think like they will probably continue to work on it. Well,
but also like this is the dawn of a new architecture for Intel, right? They like figuring out the first rev of this is always, hey, can we ship this and make this work, right?
I mean, kind of like Meteor Lake.
Kind of like Meteor Lake, and kind of like Ryzen 1, and all like new architectures are always rough, and there's always weird performance stuff. A lot of it sometimes gets worked out in software. Like I expect the power profile thing to get worked out in software and BIOS updates. Like don't buy on future promises, but like that looks to me like, hey, we can fix this. But the thing that's changed in this is there's with the disaggregated architecture, there's so many different knobs and dials for Intel to turn that we're going to see as they figure out what late stage CPUs look like when they come off of this process. We're going to see the Rev 2 version of this in 12 to 18 months is going to look very different from a performance standpoint, because they'll be like, oh, look, if we increase the fabric speed between the disaggregated dies, we see a lot more performance in games, and like they'll start twisting knobs and dials now that they have a bazillion of these CPUs to fool with, and the next rev will be better. Like that's what always happens. It happens with Zen 1 to Zen 2 to Zen 3 to Zen 4 to Zen 5, and it's going to happen with this as well. So like don't panic. It's like maybe don't buy these. It's fine. You have a Raptor Lake in your machine right now at home. Great, enjoy it. It's still really freaking fast, and probably faster than what you buy today. It also will make your room nice and warm, and might catch on fire if you don't install the right BIOS updates.
Yeah. We'll see. Friend of the show, Liquid Art, just put in a good question. Should Valve give up on NVIDIA's drivers for SteamOS and just release it into the wild with Asterisk?
Is that why they haven't released?
I that was my first question. Well, there's a second part of this. Maybe just give the Steam machine another shot, only using AMD hardware. Yeah, I don't. Do we think they're waiting on SteamOS just to make sure NVIDIA drivers are compatible?
I can't imagine.
Well, because I think maybe not to speak for Liquid R, but maybe the thing that they're trying to understand is if they release SteamOS into the wild and people start installing these on other laptops or desktops or small mini PCs, things that could potentially be equipped with NVIDIA, and all of a sudden it just runs like crap.
Yeah,
like would that actually hurt Valve?
I don't think of all the different. I've tried multiple Intel eras of Intel GPU, both the old pre-Arc stuff and the XD stuff. I don't think I've actually tried running SteamOS on an NVIDIA GPU, so I don't know how bad it is. I don't know if it's just crashy or if it's weird, because the thing that's impressive about it.
We know Bazite said explicitly that it doesn't support it, right?
It's
or it was like experience may vary, something like that.
Yeah, I think the problem is that it doesn't. That the acceleration is. I can't remember I don't remember exactly what the problem is. I apologize. I should know this, but it's not recommended. When you say I'm running a desktop and I have an NVIDIA GPU RTX series, it says your hardware does not support Steam gaming mode at this time. The desktop version of Bazite is still available. So that means you get dumped into the KDE version of Bazite rather than the Steam desktop mode. So yeah, I don't actually know I can't imagine.
I guess we should test it out. I'm curious.
Yeah, we have a bunch of NVIDIA machines set up over there. I could put it on one real easy and see.
But I guess it probably doesn't work well. If we had to guess.
Yeah.
That's an indication that they're giving a big red flag there. Then yeah, I guess do we think the follow up to that is, do we think Valve is actually holding off on releasing SteamOS to fix that situation?
Man, I don't know. There's two sides of this, right? Because I don't know why Valve would release SteamOS. Period. Why are they going to add that support hassle to their?
That's what I've been saying.
Yeah, it seems like if Bazite and other people are willing to release user generated distros that have the Steam Deck UI, the SteamOS UI,
which work pretty damn well.
Yeah, which are really, really good. Why would you incur the potential overhead of doing that yourself?
Well, but I thought they publicly stated it, though, that they are working on it, like an open version of SteamOS.
I think people have inferred that they're.
Yeah.
I thought people inferred because of commits that they're making that support things like ARM hardware and things like that. But I don't. I honestly, the Steam Deck rumor / news scene is so fraught with just crazy stuff.
Yeah,
it's hard to keep up.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. I think this points to why one, who knows if Valve is actually going to release this. I think they are working on expanding it because they obviously want other handheld makers to get in on this action. They've said before, we want to have SteamOS on other handhelds. I wouldn't be surprised if it gets released in that way. But right now, they're building SteamOS around one fixed set of hardware specs. If they're looking to open source it and drop it so you can install it on a PC or something, this would just be the tip of the iceberg. They would also have to account for all the various other PC configurations out there. It's a massive pain in the butt. So, like y'all are saying, I'm not sure that they should release SteamOS for download. If they do, I don't think it's necessarily because of this. But this is an indication of the massive amounts of headaches that would happen if you go to release SteamOS.
And with Linux, there's also multiple ways to release SteamOS, right? They can release sources, which they do right now and are really good about, without making a bundled package distro to install on your normal PC, which makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, and so so I did remember correctly. There's an article on The Verge by one Sean Hollister. The title is "Valve confirms it'll support the ROG Ally with its Steam Deck operating system. SteamOS will support rival handhelds once Valve is happy with it." This is quoted from the article, quote, the company's long said it plans to let other companies use SteamOS too, and that means explicitly supporting the rival Asus ROG Ally gaming handheld. Valve designer Lawrence Yang now confirms to The Verge, end quote. I mean, but I think that's different than saying, hey, here it is, it's open to everybody. This could just be, maybe you buy an Ally and it just ships default with SteamOS. I mean, that technically is opening it up to other people, but that's also different than saying, hey, here it is, anybody can use it.
Well, and the thing to remember, Valve's goal is to sell more PC games because they take 30% of every PC game sold, right? Or the sliding scale is you sell a certain amount. So they want to sell more PC games. Handhelds are expensive right now because the handheld vendors are non-Steam Deck handhelds are expensive right now because the Steam Deck handhelds, the non-Steam Deck handhelds have to pay Microsoft some amount of money for a copy of Windows. If they can make Steam Deck OS available for all of these other handhelds, then those prices will go down, which means more people will buy handhelds, which means more people will buy games on Steam, which means Valve will make more money at the end of the day. So they have strong incentive to get Steam Deck OS on every other handheld that they can, assuming that the overhead on them is not particularly high. And since there's a finite number of handhelds and not counting INEO, a finite number of handhelds and a finite number of configurations, it makes sense that they would do some work to support things like the ROG Ally and the Lenovo Legion and like the ones, the MSI Claw, the ones that are selling reasonable numbers. None of those ship with Nvidia hardware. Only two of them ship with Intel hardware even. Mm-hmm. So, we'll see. Also,
I'm just a quick Google search is not returning anything on SteamOS Nvidia, so I don't think there's actual like Nvidia coming out saying anything about we're looking to support Nvidia hardware either. That has been mostly inferred through patches and things like that. So it could be coming, but that would be interesting. Would be interesting.
So Valve has done a ton of work on AMD GPU drivers. Like they have contributed a buttload of work to AMD GPU drivers, stuff like the Vulkan DirectX wrapper, all of these different technologies that make games work better on the particular hardware that they shift. So they're not afraid. Like if they want to write NVIDIA open source drivers that are good, they will do it. They've done it with the AMD drivers, but there's no incentive for them to because there's no hardware in the market that supports that. And like putting Steam Deck OS on your desktop PC doesn't make a ton of sense. Where it does make sense is on those small, cheap, mini PC boxes. But most of those are APUs or Intel machines now. Yeah. There's hardly anything that has like an NVIDIA laptop GPU in it that you can buy that makes financial sense too.
I don't know, man. I actually, if it came out and it did support NVIDIA hardware, and I could put that on my small form factor gaming box that's connected to my TV, I would totally love that.
Yeah, but you're one of like 15 people that has those. I know. You're a weirdo.
Yeah. That is true as well. Also, Michael Kreider, PCWorld's own Michael Kreider
Shout
said,
out to Michael Kreider.
11/11/11 Skyrim is 13 years old. Will, don't prematurely age me.
It's so old. There's been 82 versions of Skyrim that have come out. You can get on the Switch, you can get a Switch in HD. You can probably get a 4K Switch version at this point.
Get on your Alexa, get it on here and there.
Yeah, I'm playing it right now on my Xbox Game Cloud Pass.
You could have the AI play Skyrim for you.
Look, will the AI?
They actually had a new mod that put an AI companion in there that taps into Claude or something like that.
Oh, really?
In the last couple of months. Yeah.
I want an AI that will generate a podcast about playing Skyrim so I can get the stories that were good about like my friend Josh who used to collect all the cheese wheels and put them in the buckets. Yeah.
That's pretty funny. Curious times. A couple more and then we will get out of here. We got a $2.79 Canadian
dollars
super chat from friend of the show Coffee. Thank you so much. Said, is there really a lake named KB Lake G? That is a good question. Yeah.
KB Lake Maps.
No, but KB Lake G.
G in particular.
See, that's when you're talking about KB Lake to your homies.
Yeah.
KB Lake G.
Ain't nothing but a KB Lake G thing, baby. There's a cabin. There's a G cabin on KB Lake. That's cabin. I can't say that because there's too many syllables.
I cannot say that as either.
There's too many syllables there.
Yeah. I don't know. That is a good question. That is the eternal question. I'll have to
I'm picturing freaking Matthew Lillard and Scream being like, "We're going to KB Lake, G."
Yeah.
No, that's totally what was the guy who got in trouble when he hosted the Activision press conference at E3? It's not Seth Green. It's the guy that looks like him is more annoying.
Seth Rogen?
No, it's not a Seth. He was Malibu's Most Wanted. You know.
I'm not that cultured.
Okay. Never mind.
Yeah. Sorry, we don't have any. Maybe I'll reach out to Intel. I will say I did reach out to Intel to see if there's an official comment on what happens with KF parts. Does that mean that the IGP tile is just non-functional, or do they replace it with a filler tile? I did not get an answer back.
Jamie Kennedy is who I was looking for.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
I see it.
Jamie Kennedy.
I forgot about him until just now.
He went to the Activision press conference and then called all gamers losers, and people got real upset with him.
I remember it. I
was there. It was a weird day.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Last question from they changed their name again. Used to be Sneaky, now it's Yapoleptic. Friend of the show. What's the gnarliest PC someone you're close to asked you to diagnose? What was wrong with it? Can be anything from hygiene to general safety awareness to something else. This is a good question.
Once upon a time, I used to do IT work freelance to pay for college. That's how I paid for college, is I would do IT work at night and pull Ethernet and stuff for people. And people still smoked inside back then.
Okay.
And if you had to work on a computer in a room where somebody, like the guy, it was probably a 486 or a Pentium or something old, and there was a one intake fan on the front, and his ashtray was right in front of it. And when I opened it up, the inside of the whole thing just had like sticky in it from where the smoke had stuck to every component inside in the airflow path. And I went in, I opened it up, and I touched it, and the video card was tacky when I was pulling the video, because I was like something's not right in here. The fans aren't turning, whatever. And it was the worst. That was worse than the time I almost died.
Yikes.
Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
That's the same for me. Somebody I know and love who is not very much into computing buys a new computer about every 10 years, and they smoke and have cats all in their house. And it's, you get the call every 6 years or so. It's never like, hey, can you come clear this out once a year? It's, hey, my computer's messed up. It turns out there's 7 years worth of cat hair.
Is it laptop or desktop?
Desktop.
Okay.
Yeah, the laptop I can't even imagine.
Yeah, laptop. You're like, well, here's the problem that there's supposed to be intake ports here. There's no, they're not there.
Well, he was like, hey, can I do anything to make this not happen? I was like, maybe not. Put your ashtray right in front of the intake fan on the PC. He didn't ask me back for any more stuff after that. The other one I had is one time I was working IT for the University of Tennessee's biology department, and old buildings, like 150-year-old buildings in some cases, that they like retrofitted Ethernet and stuff into. And I got hey, my computer goes offline sporadically, and we were all on 10-base-2 Ethernet at the time. So it's coaxial BNC Ethernet. You're supposed to run one cable out to the wall and then plug that into one computer and have a bunch of switches someplace. Nobody did that, because what you do is you run one cable out and then you connect about 30 computers to that chain, and you'd use T connectors to connect one room to the next. So if one person knocked the cable loose, everybody downstream from them and upstream would get knocked off, and you had to go door to door and check each BNC connector to see where the problem was. Now, what happened, I've told this on podcasts before, I apologize if you've heard this story before, but it's good and it's instructive, and it's why there's some things you should never do, which we'll get to in a minute. So I went in to the woman who'd complained, and she was a really lovely administrative assistant in the Department of Arts and Sciences, who was like 90 years old. And she said, yeah, my computer's not working. So I crawled down under the desk and I reached back to grab the BNC connector on the back of her computer to unplug it and twist it and make sure it's connected. And I get a shock through my hand that I can't let go of. I can't, like the BNC connector gets locked into my hand.
Oh no.
Because there's live current on it.
Oh.
So I'm like, oh, this is bad. I kick the power strip on the desk. Nothing happens because the current's not coming from her computer. It's coming from one of the other computers.
No.
So I rip the thing out, and I like, my arm still works, but my hand is just locked tight, and I yank it and just strip the end out of the BNC, and my hand goes loose, and it's numb and tingly and all sorts of. So at this point, I'm really, really pissed. Like as angry as I've ever been, because like probably wasn't going to die, but this is not a great experience. And I walk around, I start at the front of the line and I go door to door and I pull out everybody's plugs while they're working. And I got in trouble for this. It was not the right way to handle this situation. But I pull out the plugs and somebody had taken a power strip, and because I knew exactly what had happened because it was an old building and only had 2 prongs, no ground. And somebody had taken a normal ass power strip and ripped the bottom prong off of it and just jammed it in. So there was a floating ground across this entire 25 PC loop. And when I happened to grab it, I completed the circuit somehow because my hand was on the PC or something else. Anyway, at some point, they had called my boss and they were like, "Hey, Will's on a rampage up here. You better get up here quick." My boss was like, "You should go home. You're fine. Go to the doctor if you need to. Take tomorrow off, whatever." And he solved the problem, but it was a bad day.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So what superpower do you have now? This sounds like your
that's a good question.
your superpower origin.
Look, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I went and I was like, it was like late 90s, so people were starting to do things like embed magnets in their fingers so they could feel when there's current on stuff. And I was like, maybe I'm going to go to the tattoo place and get them to jam a little capsulated magnet on there so I can feel the power in the lines. But then I just quit doing that and went to work for Ars Technica instead, so that was easier.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Stopped having to deal with people.
Yeah, you're like journalism. That's better.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I don't have any like horrible, nasty PC stories, but there was somebody that I used to work with a long time ago who they had a horrible file management. Like I love file management, and they were complaining that their computer was running real slow. And I was like, "Oh, well, let me check it out." And it was one of those cases where it's just like, wow, I didn't know you could actually have that many tabs open. Okay, that's weird. Let's check the disk space, and of course, it's like 0% empty. And then the desktop, anytime they would download a file, anytime they would like need to move a file somewhere, they just threw it on the desktop randomly. And it was one of those things where it filled the desktop so many times that it was just every space on the desktop was filled up, and all the icons were like staggered. So like it filled up the desktop rows multiple times over and over again, and I was just like, I think at this point you probably just need to burn it. That I don't, man. I don't know what to do here. This is not my problem.
It's real easy. You fix that when you right click on a blank space. You make a blank space on the desktop, then you right click on it, and you go to View, and you go down to where it says Show Desktop Items, and you uncheck that, and then the problem's solved.
What if you couldn't find a blank desktop space?
You just gotta keep moving. Make a hole.
Yeah. Oh man, I made fun of that person.
That's rough.
I made fun of that person a lot.
That is rough.
Yeah. Also, this is just a nitpick. This isn't like the worst thing ever, but like, my stepsister, I remember I'll pick on her, but if I see it on other people, I'll pick them as well. Is that if you see like an embedded image of your keyboard on your laptop on your screen, because like when you close the lid, it's like stamping down on like nastiness on your keyboard. Yeah, and I'm just like, how can you even see with that screen? What I literally see the keyboard embedded on the screen just because there's so much gunk.
Alternately, get a microfiber and just put that over the keys when you close it. Like, I don't know, man.
Yeah. Anyway,
I like having that way I know where the fingers are.
oh, if you're a touch typer, right?
Yeah, just touch screen type right there. Boom.
Oh, okay. Anyway, let's. Yeah,
Brad, do you have one?
Well, he mentioned.
I had the one with the cats and the smoking.
Yeah.
The gnarliest thing I've ever done is I commit to the bit sometimes, and I was tasked with updating her how to clean your PC, how to clean your keyboard, stuff like 10 years ago. I knew I was going to have to do it again the next year, so I'm like, hey, I'm going to get some sweet pictures. I'm not going to clean my keyboard for a whole last year, even though I work 60 hours a week over it. The pictures are somewhere on PCWorld, and it was vile, and I threw that thing away. I cleaned it out for the article, and then I threw it away and just got a new one.
So I'm looking for really gnarly keycaps. If you know anybody who has gnarly keycaps, send them in because I have something I want to do. I foolishly cleaned my keyboard, one of my old keyboards, and it worked really well. And I would like to do another video for that.
I have some disgusting friends, so I'll see what.
When you talked about that with Will on the Tech Pod,
Brad, you mean
Brad? I'm sorry.
Will.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
No, it made me think that because he was worried about it being rubbed off in your method, and I was like, oh yeah, I do wonder if there's a difference between PBT and.
I like double shots. I would be a little bit worried about separation.
Yeah, right.
But like I mean, I did double shots. Like if you had like weird pudding caps or something, maybe I don't know.
It was like I was like that would be cool to like know your method, but also just like see the difference of like actually, you know what? If you're only these kind of people can do the method, like which ones?
Yeah, that. Well, we should get. We should. I mean, we know some experts on that stuff. We can ask.
Also, Will, you're the winner because you got electrocuted, according to friend of the show.
Look, I'm glad I cheated death almost 30 years ago.
Hey, you know what? Same.
25 years ago.
Same. So yeah. With that, let's get out of here. Let me bring up the notes. Check back next week for your fix of PC talk here on the Full Nerd. To listen to us on the go, subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music, anywhere you can point your RSS feed to. Hopefully we are on that service, and if you are on one of the services, just give us a little review. Just a little review. It doesn't need to be big. It just be a little review. You know?
Thumbs up.
Yeah, thumbs up. I don't know.
Yeah.
Thumbs up the YouTube.
Yeah.
Heart it. Every time you do, I find a new CPU in a tray somewhere in the back corner, and I need more CPUs. Around
Look at
here.
those little CPUs. They're like little babies.
I know they are small, right?
Small, like, SMOL, small.
Yeah, it's just so cute. Anyway, I want to thank everybody. I've been your fill-in host, Adam Patrick Murray. I want to thank Brad for joining me. Thank you, Brad.
My pleasure as always, Adios, show.
Yeah. Thank you to Will Smith for being alive and not getting electrocuted.
It's always nice to be here. Check out my ASMR streams later this week where we talk about Ryzen 9800 X3D.
And I'd like to thank Will Sly, who controlled the verticals and horizontals. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We will check you out next week.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I'm actually mad at Will right now because he just posted or shared a YouTube video of a giant burrito that's available in Vegas. So now I'm hungry for a burrito, but I have to wait until CES. So why you got to do that to me, Will?
Sorry, Willis, but I want to hear. I want the report on that burrito.
Yeah, team burrito.
Will do. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We will see you next time on the episode of The Full Nerd.